Hello, everyone. My name is Lydia Martinez, and I'm here today with Moe, who is the Neighborhood Recruitment Director for the Other Side Village.
Yeah.
Moe, I am so delighted to be here today and to talk with you. Tell me a little bit about your background and your story, because I think that's something that's really, really impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be here as well. But my background in my life as it relates to addiction and homelessness, it starts at an early age. It starts with growing up in a family that for generations had a culture of drug, alcohol use, and a lot of trauma, a lot of emotional baggage growing up, and kind of took that along with me. And a lot of those habits weren't the best, but it led me down a road of alcoholism, drug addiction, in and out of jail until eventually got to a point where I was homeless on the streets of San Francisco. And I know what that life is like, being on the streets and being in a situation where you want to get clean and sober, and I've gone through a lot of different programs, and a lot of them just didn't work. I always thought I was a person that, I could fix this, but addiction, alcoholism, homelessness, that's something where, the services have to line up. I've been in situations where, I had housing and, that housing just wasn't safe. It just wasn't a place where you can thrive. There was drugs, alcohol, prostitution that was around. And then, you have a moment where you have a great job and then the housing doesn't line up. So it's about wanting to get right, but a lot of different, public, city, county government services just didn't line up for me. So that's kind of how my story is. But, luckily, I was able to get out of that rut and do something different.
So tell me a little bit about how you actually managed to get out of that rut, because, as you and I were talking earlier, you were telling me that story or that journey, and I was so inspired by how that happened and also the support system that you had.
Yeah, I was fortunate that while I was in my addiction, while I was homeless on the streets of San Francisco, I had several people and organizations reached out to me and say, hey, this is a great way for you to get your life back on track. One of a person that I worked for in San Francisco mentioned Delancey Street, that it was a 2-year program, and at the time I was like, you know what, I can't sit down for 2 minutes anywhere, let alone 2 years. And so I continued to run the streets, but it was planted in the back of my mind. And so, being in San Francisco, I was on one of my last runs, police chase and that whole thing. And, and prior to that, I had a friend of mine, grab me in the middle of the street. I was standing up, asleep, coming out for a couple week, drug and alcohol binge, and shook me up. And that kind of helped out for a few weeks, but still I continued to run the streets. And, on my last run, I was arrested by a college football coach, officer. I remember him roughing me up pretty bad and giving me a good talk. And it was at that point in jail, facing new charges, I said, you know what, it's time to do something different. And so I wrote to a model, a culture, a therapeutic community called Delancey Street in San Francisco. And it was there. It was a game changer. A person, my background that was an addict for so many years, 2 weeks, 6 months, or whatever, wasn't going to do it. I needed a place where I could sit down, reset, recalibrate my moral compass, and get back on track. And that was a place where, I learned to do that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you ended up from Delancey Street in California to the Other Side Academy here in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things you learn at Delancey Street, obviously, when you leave, you're a person that's more honest, you have some integrity, and you're decent, and you have some dignity about yourself, and you learn an awesome work ethic. And for me, after I graduated, that work ethic translated into, employers saying, hey, this guy is really good. And so I moved up into, the different companies that I worked for. One of them was Big Bus Tours, where I became a supervisor and later operations manager in Las Vegas. And it was there, I graduated, I'm living my life, things are going great, just purchased a new home there and living the American dream. And then I connected with the Other Side Academy.
Yeah.
And at that time, the Other Side Academy was launching a replication of Delancey Street. And, the founder, Joseph Grinny, bless his heart, wanted to make sure that the model was exactly like Delancey Street. And so he set out to hire graduates of Delancey Street. No doctors, no psychologists, no white coats, nobody sitting in front of me saying, we're here to fix you. It wasn't like that. This is a, pure run, pure driven, 100% accountability model and type of culture. And so I agreed to come help with the Other Side Academy here in Salt Lake City. And it's just been a great ride. So many lives are being saved. And this model being one of, rehabilitation and entrepreneurship kind of collides. I'm never going to be able to have dignity and respect about myself with somebody else giving it to me. It's always going to come from you getting it yourself. And that's the environment that the Other Side Academy promotes. And that's what we've been good at.
Yeah, that it actually gives you the opportunity to build dignity and build respect and for yourself rather than, a handout, which doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now let's shift gears just a little bit and talk through the Other Side Village. What is the Other Side Village?
So yes, the Other Side Village is definitely born out of the Other Side Academy. We've learned and built a culture of peer accountability, one of each one, teach one, reach back, and help the next person. There's been an example that our founder always gives is that, you're at your new place and you're drinking a Coca-Cola, you empty it and you throw it out on the ground. There's a small window between somebody in that community saying, hey, wait a minute, you need to pick that can up. We have a beautiful community here and we want to keep it that way. This is how we do things. So that's kind of a small example of how it works. But the Other Side Academy is for people that pretty much hardened criminals, background of drugs and crime and that type of thing. The Other Side Village is specifically for those folks that have been chronically homeless, those folks that suffer from mental illness. We want to help our veterans, those folks that are out there with ongoing drug addictions. That's who the Other Side Village is for. And, we decided that, Salt Lake City and the state of Utah is primed for this type of project. And so one of my responsibilities as the Director of Neighbor Recruitment is to be out in the homeless camps, to be in the resource centers, volunteering and making that one-on-one, that human-to-human, that heart connection with those folks, let them know, hey, this is what's coming down the pipeline. Here's a great opportunity that's getting ready to present itself for this population. Now, at the same time, we know that our small homes is not going to be the answer. It's going to be the culture that we bring. It's going to be those services that we, wrap around this village. A perfect example is you give a person a housing voucher, which happens today, and they take that housing voucher and they go into their new apartment or their new home or whatever it may be. But what they take with them is their crack pipe, their heroin, all the drugs, and all their other vices. And then after a couple of weeks, everybody in the neighborhood that does drugs is in your house. And then after a couple of months, you are evicted. And so that cycle kind of repeats itself. We want to make sure that we give our neighbors a fighting chance. And so we want to make sure that before you get into the village that you take care of, there's some legal stuff you need to take care of. There's some mental illness, there's some counseling, there's some detox that needs to go on. There's some addiction recovery you need to go on. So we want to take care of that first. And then, and so we make sure that we give a person a fighting chance once they get inside the Other Side Village. But
so there's a transition process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to give the person a fighting chance, and so the model already exists that does just the opposite of that. And there's a lot of, I don't want to get it wrong, there's a lot of different organizations around Utah and around the country and the world that they do specific things pretty good. Some are good at with the size and scale of their programs. Some are good at housing. Some may be good at counseling. What we want to do is make sure that all those services are provided to the person, and they have to be on site. And so that's what we're looking forward to, and that's what we're moving forward with.
The thing that stood out the most about what you said is painting that vision of community.
Yeah.
That this is not a segregated village. This isn't something where it's put our chronically homeless population here and forget about them, out of sight, out of mind. That's not what this is intended to be.
Absolutely. We're not looking at this population as a problem that needs to be solved. And for, having a past of being homeless myself, and then for the last 2 or 3 months being out in those homeless camps and those resource centers, and I've seen that, this population just has an enormous amount of potential. Everybody has some kind of a story, and a lot of it is rooted in, emotional, traumatic experiences, whether it be as a child or as an adult. And a lot of it has gone unchecked, and a lot of it has gone undiagnosed as well. And so we want to make sure that we have the resources and the services for that person, right on site, so they can get a fighting chance.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. It also makes sense to me that the vision of the village is community integration with not just services for the chronically homeless, but also things for the population at large.
Absolutely. And we're looking at a village that will, take that into account. We're looking for the downtown part inside the village to be sort of that interface between the other side village, its neighbors, and the general public as well. And we want to make sure that we're self-sufficient. We don't go back every year asking money from the government. And one of the ways that we'll do that is through our social enterprises. We're looking at doing an Airbnb. We're looking at doing a auditorium where we can do concerts and events. We're looking at a deli, a cafe, a restaurant, a salon, a barbershop. This helps us be self-sufficient, but at the same time, if our neighbors are in a position where they need employment or they need to make extra money, now keep in mind, they won't be required to work for us or any one of our third parties.
Yeah.
We'll encourage it and we'll reward it. And so we'll also have a grocery store. And the beautification part of what we bring to the entire, not just the other side village, but to the general neighborhood as well. It'll be something that, the people that live in the neighborhood can interact with, something they can be proud of, and something that's useful for them as well.
Well, and there's already a template that exists for that, and how successful it can be through the Other Side Academy.
Absolutely. So the Other Side Academy is fully self-sufficient, and there's a successful moving company, which is the number one rated moving company in the state of Utah. We have several thrift boutiques. We have a thriving construction company, and those are the ways that we remain self-sufficient. Now, at the same time, the person living in that community is part of the solution, not the problem. And if you can just imagine, a person that's, living and getting help in the community, they're able to do that themselves. They're part of the solution. They're paying their own way, so to speak. And so we want to bring that piece and those successful cultural pieces as well to the Other Side Village.
What would you say to the people that may not understand the importance of community in solving these social problems?
Yeah, we're always going to have those folks that say, not my neighborhood, or, this is a simple problem. All a person has to do is stop drinking alcohol, stop using drugs, and stop committing crimes. But, when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, everyone's just a few bad decisions away from, being homeless, making bad decisions, whether it be alcohol or drug abuse or what have you. Everybody has some kind of story, and like I said, again, it's rooted in something that's emotional and something traumatic. How many times have we been at a family gathering or a family reunion, and everybody sees that, Uncle Pookie or, cousin Billy Bob is doing something bad, it's something strung out. But instead of saying something, we go into these little small groups and we kind of whisper and point the finger.
Mm.
And it's time for, folks to stand up and say, you know what, I can make a contribution. There's something I can do to alleviate, whether it be hunger, homelessness, drug addiction, or what have you. It's all of our responsibilities.
So where should we have people go that are interested in learning about what it is that you do or how they might be able to support the village?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to our website, theothersidevillage.com, and we have opportunities to, volunteer. We have opportunities to give. We have opportunities to donate. And so I would start there. And then if you have any more, general questions or want to get more into it, we'd be happy. I personally would be happy to give you a tour and a little bit more overview and information about, how we got started and where we're at today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mo, for your time today.
Absolutely.
It was a delight chatting with you. Yeah. And thanks everybody who tuned in to really find out more about the village and what it is that we're trying to accomplish there.
Absolutely.
Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.